President, please be seated. The court is now in session. Today, the chamber continues to hear testimony of witness Sing Sun in relation to the treatment of the Vietnamese. Ms. Jia Siu Huang, please report the attendance of the parties and other individuals at today's proceedings. Gracias, Mr. President. For today's proceedings, all parties to this case are present. Mr. Nuon Chea is present in the holding cell downstairs. He has waived his right to be present in the courtroom. The waiver has been delivered to the greffier. The witness who is to conclude his testimony today, that is Mr. Sing Sun, is present in the courtroom. There is no reserve witness today. Thank you. President, thank you. Ms. Jia Siu Huang. The Chamber now decides on the request by Nuon Chea. The Chamber has received a waiver from Nuon Chea, dated 28 October 2015, which states that due to his health, headache, back pain, he cannot sit or concentrate for long, and in order to effectively participate in future hearings, he requests to waive his right to participate in and be present at the 28 October 2015 hearing. Having seen the medical report of Nuon Chea by the duty doctor for the accused at the ECCC, dated 28 October 2015, which notes that Nuon Chea has back pain when he sits for long and recommends that the chamber grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC internal rules, the chamber grants Nuon Chea his request to follow the proceedings remotely from a holding cell downstairs via audio-visual means. The AV unit personnel are instructed to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that Nuon Chea can follow. This applies to the whole day. Again, the chamber hands the floor to the co-prosecutors to put questions to the witness, and the combined time for the co-prosecutors and the lead co-lawyers is 1 session this morning. You may proceed.
Merci, bonjour, monsieur.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors, and all the parties, and good morning to you, witness. Yesterday, when we parted company, you were talking about what you saw from your observation post in the Sach Pagoda, and you told us that you saw a number of Vietnamese being executed by soldiers very close to the entrance or to the fence of the pagoda. When you observed those executions, did you hear the killers insulting or humiliating the Vietnamese before killing them?
No, I did not hear it.
Est-ce que les victimes étaient...
Were the victims systematically thrown into the pits after being executed, or some were left on the edge of the pit?
They were all thrown into the pit.
Pouvez-vous nous raconter ce que vous avez vu spécifiquement?
Can you tell us what you saw specifically as regards Nyeri Chanta? I mean, his execution. Can you explain to us how her execution was? This is the lady you described as being a member of the mobile unit and as being a Vietnamese.
When they walked her out, they mentioned her name, that is Chanta. And I followed, I actually saw them walk into the pit, but she was not killed there. She was dragged away about 10 meters from the pit, and then they actually bent her head down under her legs, and then they removed her gallbladder, placed it in a container of wine and drank it.
Et par la suite, est-ce qu'ils l'ont traînée et...
And did they subsequently drag her and throw her into the pit, as they did to the others?
She was left there. Then they continued killing the people who were brought out from the pagoda.
Est-ce que c'est la seule victime que vous avez vue?
Is that the only victim you saw whose bowels were opened up and the liver taken out? The gallbladder taken out, I beg your pardon.
I witnessed only one incident in this matter.
D'après ce que vous avez entendu,
From what you were able to hear during those events, do you know why the soldiers removed that woman's gallbladder and put it inside alcohol to drink it?
They didn't say anything. However, I saw them remove her gallbladder and place it in a wine container.
à propos de Chanta,
Regarding Chanta, yesterday you said that she was Vietnamese, and in answer to my question, you also said that you knew that her grandparents were Vietnamese. You subsequently said that you recognized her as being Vietnamese from her physical characteristics. I have two questions for you. First of all, while you were working in the mobile unit, did you yourself know that Chanta was Vietnamese?
Yes, I knew it clearly that she was.
est-ce que c'était connu?
And was it known in the village that that family was a Vietnamese family? Did everyone know about that?
Yes, everyone did.
Et est-ce que vous pourriez décrire les traits physiques
And can you describe to us the physical features of Vietnamese? How could you make out that Shanta was Vietnamese? Can you tell us more about that?
It included the way she walked, her facial figure, and in my village, There were only her and her grandparents who were Vietnamese, and everybody, including the elders in the village, knew that they were Vietnamese.
Est-ce que vous confirmez que
Do you confirm that in that young village, it was only that family that was taken to the Sak pagoda at that time, shortly before the executions?
There was only Chantha from Jiang village who was taken to Ksaj pagoda.
Alors j'en viens au nombre.
Now, I would like us to talk about the number of Vietnamese who were killed that evening. While you were observing those events, you told us that you stayed there for approximately 1 hour. Approximately how many people did you see being executed?
President Witness, please hold on, and Council Coppert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I object to this question. It's only this witness who claims that Chanta is Vietnamese, but aside of Chanta, he doesn't know that the people that he said he saw being executed were Vietnamese. He guessed it. So that is something obviously that has to be established. So I don't think the prosecution can ask the question or talk about the alleged victims as Vietnamese, because he doesn't know and he's in no position to know. He wasn't involved in the arrest. He doesn't even know about lists. So just to pretend that the massacre he said he saw involved Vietnamese is too many steps too far. Monsieur le Président, si
Mr. President, I would like to respond. There are 3 witnesses, not just these witnesses. They all said that they were Vietnamese. Secondly, yesterday it was established, based on the fact that the witness clearly explained that all victims who arrived on the execution site were asked the question whether they were Vietnamese or Chinese. And he explained that the Chinese were spared, their lives were spared, and the Vietnamese were executed. So I think I can put this question to the witness without raising any controversy on it.
if I may quickly respond, Mr. President, his friend, who was allegedly also present, never heard the alleged killers ask the question whether the victims were Yun or Vietnamese or Chinese. So it's just him and another witness talking about a family of Hong and someone else. So to pretend that there are 500 or 600 Vietnamese victims is nonsense.
President, the objection by Counsel Copper is sustained since there is no statement yet made by the victims who were a part of the so-called Vietnamese. There is no clear statements from those victims. For that reason, you need to first establish a foundation that those victims were all Vietnamese. Otherwise, you have to limit your questions to the victims, and you cannot conclude that they were all Vietnamese. For that reason, the Deputy Co-Prosecutor, please rephrase your question.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regarding the approximate number of victims that you yourself saw with your own eyes being killed by soldiers close to the Sak Pagoda that evening, are you able to give us an estimate of the number of persons you saw being killed?
During the 1 hour period that I observed the execution, the number of people who were executed was between 50 to 60.
Merci. Vous avez donné.
Thank you. As a matter of fact, the figures you gave were slightly different, and you gave those figures on a number of occasions to the OCIJ investigators. I would like you to clarify the matter if you are able to do so, of course. In E3/9335, the first transcript, page 4 in French, 4 in English, and 3 in Khmer, you stated as follows, and I quote, "As regards that matter, I spent approximately more than an hour. I estimate that during that length of time, they killed 70 to 80 persons." In another transcript, E3/7890, on page 2 in French and English, and on page 3 in Khmer, you stated that you saw more than 100 people being executed by 12 young Khmer Rouge soldiers. Today, you are telling us that the number was 50 to 60. As a matter of fact, are you giving us only an estimate? Can you clarify that number?
President Witness, please hold on, and Counsel Copper, you have the floor.
No objection, but I think, Mr. President, that the prosecution should be complete because in that same statement, in the same WRI, he estimates the amount of victims, Vietnamese victims being killed as to 600 to 700. So I have a number of 600 to 700, 70 to 80, 100, and now 50 to 60. So it's 4 different figures. And his friend only saw 25, by the way.
Alors là, je m'oppose.
I firmly object to this. Mr. Kope is confirming 2 things. We have the number of victims the victim saw with his own eyes. And then, as regards the 600 persons, it is not 500, it is the total number of victims. And he saw people being executed subsequently, so there shouldn't be any mix-up. And we are going one step at a time, and we'll get to the total number of persons executed subsequently.
Actually, it was an observation by the defense counsel, and it's not an objection. And the Deputy Co-Prosecutor, please clarify the discrepancy of the amount of victims mentioned in the WRIs before the witness, since he is here in person.
C'est bien ça que je comptais faire, Monsieur le Président.
That is indeed what I meant to do, Mr. President. Now, let me once more repeat the question. Can you please explain to us, for purposes of clarification, the approximate number of persons? I know you cannot give the exact number. I mean, the approximate number of victims you saw being executed that evening. During the 1 hour or so period of time you spent there, you talked of 50 to 60 or 70 persons.
I was there for about an hour, and the figure I provided is just my personal estimation. The numbers could range between 60 to 70 and to 80. Of course, I did not count individual victim. I only provide you with my estimate.
Merci.
Thank you. At the time when you left your observation post, had the executions ended or they were continuing?
It was continued.
Concernant la provenance,
As regards the provenance or the areas of origin of the victims, let me read out what you told the OCIJ investigators in transcript E3/9335. You talked of Chanta's family from your village, and you said on page 2, I believe in all the languages, and it's the second answer in this written record of interview. This is what you stated. They were mobilized from the various villages. Let me start again. The Vietnamese were transported by ox carts and assembled at the Sac Pagoda. They were mobilized from the various villages and communes and districts of Chik Reng. I remember clearly that at the time there were Vietnamese whom they had transported from Cravel village in Sankville sub-district 2, because my mobile unit was staying near Wat Ksach. End of quote. How did you know that, from what you have just stated, that there were Vietnamese from Cravel village? How did you get by that information?
I heard other people in Diem village talked about this.
d'accord. Alors à part
Very well. Apart from the people you saw being executed, I mean the people you saw with your own eyes being executed, did you hear approximately how many people were detained temporarily in that pagoda before being executed?
People were detained in the library hall in the pagoda, and it is my estimate that there were between 300 to 400 people in that library hall.
et sur quels éléments vous êtes-vous basé?
And what is your basis for giving that estimate of 600 persons?
President, the figure given by the witness is 300 to 400, And I heard through the translation, the interpretation, that the number is 600. Please make sure you give a correct figure.
Tout à fait, mais en
That is quite correct. In the French interpretation, I heard 600 to 700 people. Let me repeat my question. Did you say 300 or 600 to 700 persons?
The number is between 300 to 400, and this is my personal estimate.
Bien, et sur quels éléments?
Very well. And what was the basis for making that estimate? What did you see? What were you able to know? On what gave you the basis for that estimate?
Because the library hall was pretty large and it was full with those people, and I could heard voices of them talking in that hall.
Le soir de l'exécution,
In the evening of the execution, what was the size of the pit, the dimensions of the pit into which the victims you saw being executed were thrown into? Were you able to know the dimensions of that pit? Can you tell us whether it was deep or not?
It was 5 meter by 5 meter, and the depth was 3 meter.
est-ce que dans
In the days that followed the execution of the people you saw, did you have the opportunity of returning to the Ksak Pagoda?
I returned once. However, I didn't dare stay there for long. I was there quickly, then I left.
Can you tell us what you saw exactly? Either around the pagoda or within the pagoda?
I looked at the outside of the pagoda compound, and then I also entered the inner compound of the pagoda.
First, what did you note outside of the compound? Was there anything specific that you noted then?
Answer. I saw the dirt was used to partially cover the pit.
Thank you. Then did you see another pit than the pit you saw on the evening of the executions?
Answer. On that night that I went to the pagoda, I saw only one pit.
D'accord, là je...
Fine. I was speaking, however, about the moment when you returned to the pagoda, or so did you see other pits, or you only saw the pit containing the bodies of the people who were executed that evening, and that you said was covered, were there any additional pits to the one that you saw on the evening when the people were executed?
Answer. I saw a well that was also a pit inside the pagoda, and there was another pit near the pagoda. It was considered an old pit.
Merci.
Thank you. And how did you get to know that there were, according to what you were saying, people who had been buried in that well? What led you to believe that the pits had been used for that as well as the well?
Answer. Because the well had not yet been covered, and the well to the east of the pagoda had not yet been covered as well. So I could see what's inside.
And in this well outside of the pagoda, as well as in the pits outside of the pagoda, did you see bodies?
Answer. In the well, there was some water, and when the bodies, after the body had been killed, the body was thrown into the well, and the bodies were floating, 5 or 6 meters away from that well.
Well, I would like you to provide me with a bit of clarification regarding the time you spent on location observing the executions. Of course, you did not have a watch back then, but you provided us with 2 different versions, and I'd like you to tell us what your best estimate is. In the first written record of interview, E3/9335, on page 4 in English and in French, and page 3 in Khmer, the question is put to you regarding how much time you spent watching the executions of these Vietnamese, and then you said a little over an hour. And in the second record of interview, E3/7890, on page 2 in all 3 languages, you say the following: I was watching the execution from a distance, the execution that started at 9 o'clock in the evening and ended at 12. So that lasted 3 hours, free translation. So, can you tell us what your real time estimate is? You said more than 1 hour, and then you said 3 hours. So what do you remember the best, and how were you able to measure that time that went by?
Answer. I may have not recalled well since it happened a long time ago, but what I said was true.
When you were questioned by the investigators, you showed them the different pits, or the place from where you observed the executions, as well as the place where the executions took place, as well as another pit?
Answer. The investigators asked me to guide them to the pits and also to the place where I was observing the incident at the time, and also they asked me to show the way that I used to go and have a look at those pits, and they asked me also to show the tree where the kerosene lantern was held. They wanted to make sure that I was telling them the truth. The investigators also went to see the villagers to show them the killing sites and also the places where I told them. So the places and the events told by the villagers were the same those that I told the investigators. So the investigators was trying to corroborate the evidence, my evidence, with that of the villagers' evidence. Later on, they went to meet a monk who was younger than me. However, that monk was not sure on the event or incident. The monk was not sure what happened during the time.
Thank you. Well, to finish with this, did the investigators show you the pictures they took of you when you were showing them these different places?
Answer. Back then, to my recollection, I do not know whether I was shown with photos. I am sure that I was interviewed and they may have typed, the narratives into the computer, but I cannot tell you whether the photos were shown to me.
Merci. Juste
Thank you. Just before I give the floor to the civil parties, I would like to show 4 photographs that are annexed to the site location report produced by the investigators with index E3/8049, I believe. And in French, the photographs are on pages 13 to 16 in English, pages 12 to 15, and same in Khmer. This is a site location report regarding Tsak Pagoda. So with your leave, Mr. President, I simply would like to provide these 4 photographs to the witness to see if he can recognize himself on these pictures.
អង្គជំរាបអនុញ្ញាត
President, yes, you can show the photos.
J'entends que le témoin dit qu'il ne peut pas.
I understand that the witness says that he cannot see the pictures clearly. Well, in any case, there are 4 photographs for the record with the captions indicating the visit of the locations with witness Sin Sung. So the first photograph shows a place where, according to the investigators, 150 people were executed. The second place shows the witness at his observation station during the executions, about 40 meters away. The third photograph carries the following caption: the place of the execution seen from the observation station. And the fourth photograph is a photograph where shows the place where he found about 50 bodies when he returned to that location a few days later. Witness, you do not see anything? There is a person here with a yellow shirt, or in any case on the first and last photograph, who is showing the different locations. So are you able to recognize if this is you or not?
Answer: regarding the photo, it is me inside that photo.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no further questions. I now would like to give the floor to the civil parties.
President, thank you. The floor is now given to legal lawyers for civil parties to put questions to this witness. You may now proceed. Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors. I would like to seek the floor for Mr. Hong Kim Soon, and he may need around 15 minutes to put questions to this witness. President, you can now proceed with your questioning, Mr. Hong Kim Soon. Hong Kim Soon, good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. My name is Hong Kim Soon. I am from the Defenders Organization for the rights of the accused. I do not have much time to put question to you since the co-prosecutor has asked you a lot of questions already. I would like to ask you about the execution at such Pagoda. Now I am asking you about the killing of Janta. You told the court that she was known as a Vietnamese person. You stated that before she was killed, she was taken away from the killing pit, and then they bent her feet to her head before opened her bowel. Is that true? Answer: that is true, and they did not undress her at that time. Lawyer: thank you. In your testimony yesterday and today, you stated that Janta was living in Giang village, and her grandparents were Vietnamese, and she had no parents. Do you know how her parents died? Answer: no, I do not know. Lawyer: thank you. Regarding the execution of the Vietnamese, you, in addition to that, those killings, you made mention about the killings of children and also members of the family. When you were observing the killing, how were the children killed? Were they killed in the same way as they killed the adults? President, please observe the microphone before you speak, Mr. Witness. Answer. Sometimes after the children arrived at the place, they were hit with the bamboo sticks, and some other children were thrown up into the air and they fell into the pit. Lawyer, I am asking you about the killing of the children, not the killing of the baby. Were the children bowel open up when they were killed? Answer, no. Lawyer, thank you. You made mention and told the court that about 50 or 60 victims were killed on the night. Were female victims raped before they were killed? Answer, no, they weren't. Lawyer, thank you. I have another question for you. You stated before the chamber that the victims were not blindfolded and they were not tied up when they were killed. Regarding those who had been killed and those who had not yet been killed, were they staying close to each other? Answer. For those who had been brought to be killed, they were put, in places far away from one another. Lawyer, thank you. Now I would like to know some families members. Were those family members able to see the actual killing of their loved ones? Answer, I have no knowledge of that matter, Mr. Lawyer. Lawyer, thank you. In document D125/79, page 3 in my version, and perhaps page 2 in English, or 3, I am not sure. You gave an answers to the investigators regarding a village chief named Soy. Soy stated that he received order from the superior to kill the Vietnamese. Did you hear this directly from the village chief? And do you know that that village chief received direct order from the superior? President, please hold on, Mr. Witness. You have the floor now, Mr. Cooper.
I object. This is a leading question. He never spoke before about the village chief. I think counsel should have started with an opening question about who the village chief was, what his knowledge was, etc. Now he just leads him directly to his previous answer, so I object to this line of questioning.
Lawyer, documents in the interface had already been filed by parties, and the President asked the witness already whether or not he has reviewed and read the documents. That is why I quoted some parts of the document and asked him about that statement. President, Mr. Lawyer, please identify the document specifically, the page and the document number so that a party can follow you. And what I heard from the defense counsel is that what you quoting is not in the document. First, you have to lay the ground before you can ask, and if there is any discrepancy, you can quote a certain portion of the statement to clarify with the witness. The chamber has instructed the party already on the matter so that we can proceed smoothly with our hearings. Lawyer, thank you, Mr. President. In document E3/9335, and regarding the Khmer Iran, it is 00224678. My apology, it is 00217488 through 91. That is Khmer Iran, and Iran in English is 00274727 through 31, and French 00384372 through 76. President, I don't think you identify correctly the document number. Please specify it again, lawyer. Lawyer. My apology, Mr. President. Document E3/9335. Rather, the lawyer said E3/9395. President, you may now have the floor, International Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
Thank you. Simply to help you clarify things, it's on page 4 in all 3 languages, French, English, and Khmer. Document E3/9335.
Lawyer, that is correct, what the co-prosecutor said. May I proceed now, Mr. President? I would like to put the last question to this witness. Mr. Witness, the reference page is consistent with what the co-prosecutor mentioned. Did you know the killing of Vietnamese from one village chief? And if yes, what was his name? President, the witness did not mention the name of the village chief yet. When he was answering, the microphone had not yet activated. Please rephrase your question. Lawyer, let me put the question once again. Do you know the killings of Vietnamese from which village chief? What is his name? Answer, his name is Soy. Question, did you learn that killings from the village chief, or did you learn it directly? Answer, he told me. Question, what did he tell you about the killings, if you can recall? Answer, he told me long time ago, so I did not recall exactly what he told me at that time. Lawyer, now I would like to read the WRI, the same document that I mentioned to the court. From what I knew, the village chief received the order from the superior. I did not know whether he received the order from the district or from the sector. President, please hold on, Mr. Witness. You have the floor now, Mr. Cooper.
Again, I object to this question, Mr. President. Although confused at the answer, from the answer, the witness that he now says he heard it from the village chief. What he in fact has said in his WRI is something about alleged chain of command, nothing else. So I think first we should identify what precisely it was that this village chief would have said to him as to orders from anywhere, and then move slowly down the line. All of a sudden we speak about the village chief and the witness is giving an answer, and now we're moving to sort of chain of command line of questioning. It doesn't really make sense, and I don't think it is an appropriate line of questioning. So I object.
Lawyer, I would like to respond to the objection. I was asking about the knowledge of the witness, or whether or not he knew the killing directly by himself or he learned from the village chief. And then I asked the witness what did the village chief tell him. So the question are related to each other. President, please rephrase your question and make your question simple and specifically, because I cannot catch your question in Khmer very well. You have lots of experience, so please arrange your question once again.
Counsel, allow me to rephrase my question. Mr. Witness, you said that you heard from the village chief about the killing of the Vietnamese. And my question to you is the follow. My question to you was what he told you, and you said that it happened a long time ago, so you cannot recall it. And for that reason, I read an excerpt from your statement, and whether you stand by that statement or not, in which you said that the village chief said that the order came from the upper echelon, but he didn't know from which level. Are you still standing by your statement, Mr. Witness? Witness, that statement is correct. Counsel, thank you. I don't have any further question for the witness, Mr. President. Thank you. President, we'll take a short break now and resume at 20 past 10 to continue our proceedings. And court officer, please assist the witness during the short break and invite him back into the courtroom at 20 past 10. The court is now in